All right, guys, welcome to another edition of the Hosstocks Roadshow. We're coming to you from Lakeside Speedway. Two guys were on my radar. One hasn't arrived yet. The second guy is the driver of the number 2 car, David Gravel. David, thanks for chit-chatting with me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
David, on my show, I mean, we broadcast a show on Port City Raceway's intermission time, so a lot of micro fans. But a lot of micro fans are sprint car fans, and they just love racing in general. And you are on point here as of the last few years. You've come on strong and been in strong contention, but it didn't happen all just overnight. You've been in racing a long time. Just kind of give us a brief background of your background and a rundown of where you've been and what you've done.
Yeah, so I started off in quarter midgets at age 6 and ran them to about 12 or 13 years old and moved up to a 250 or 270 micro in Pennsylvania. And then from there we went to a 600 wing, and from there we went to a 360 series called URC that's up in the Northeast. And then from there we went on the All-Star Tour and got a couple opportunities and hopped on the Outlaw Tour, and the rest is history.
Was it always the goal to be a World of Outlaws sprint car driver, or were you like, I want to race a little bit, but I'm going to go play baseball?
I definitely wanted to race, but World of Outlaws was definitely not on my radar. Growing up in Connecticut, we don't have a dirt track in our whole state, so the first time I saw a dirt race was probably in Hagerstown, Maryland, I think. I was racing at the small little quarter midget track over there and got to see a late model race. And then when we started racing 600s, we were racing at Trailways, which is really close to Lincoln Speedway, and we got rained out. And we went over and saw a 410 race at Lincoln. And once you saw 410s, hauling butt around the track and the cars shaking at idle, we were definitely in love from there. But we didn't grow up around sprint car racing. My family didn't. The people working on the car didn't either. So we just progressed one step at a time. I was like, oh, this is the next step, so let's go and try it. What
makes a good sprint car driver? I know it takes a lot of different things, from mental awareness to the physical awareness of it all and everything else. What does it take to be, in your opinion, a good sprint car driver?
Well, there's a couple different versions of that, right? Kyle Larson's driving style is nothing like Donnie Schatz's. Brad Sweet's is nothing like Carson Macedo's, So I think being a World of Outlaw driver, you have to be able to adapt very, very well. I mean, you could be a good sprint car driver and only go good at Lincoln because you raced there your whole life. But it all depends. I think you have to be good at everything. I think you can't be scared to run the top when the top is the fastest groove, but also you have to know when the bottom's the fastest groove, and you have to slow way down and putt the bottom and get good drive off. So to me, you just have to be able to adapt. You have to be aggressive when you need to be aggressive and finesse when you have to finesse.
You talk about being able to adapt really well, and whenever you come to a race like this, the high limit race, I mean, it's not on the Outlaw schedule, but there's a big part of the Outlaw guys are here, but there's also a lot of the different other guys that you may not get to race with so often. Is there anything that you do to prepare mentally whenever you come to something like this, like the Knoxville Nationals or anything like that? You approach it differently because you're probably going against different competitors. How do you approach something like this mentally?
Yeah, you just try to stay to yourself, but at the end of the day, you got to put 2 good qualifying laps down no matter who you're racing against. And if you don't have good 2 qualifying laps tonight, it's probably really hard to dig out of it. When you're running the Outlaws and there's only 30 cars, you could probably dig out of it a lot easier. But when you're going to have 55-plus cars and a lot of them are good, it really magnifies your mistakes. So, racing with a couple different guys that we don't normally is sometimes a change, and maybe you don't have as much trust around them as you do other guys you race every week. But for us, this is not a points race, so we're gonna try to learn some things, and if it doesn't make sense, we don't need to tear anything up either. So we're here to try to win 50,000, and hopefully we'll put ourselves in position and get in that dash and have a real shot at it.
I saw you earlier down there in the draw and how they got everything put into 2 different groups. That's something that you're not really used to. Is that something that you adjust to at all? I mean, or is it just something where, hey, it's the draw, the cream of the crop is going to rise to the top at the end of the day. And like you said, it all comes down to that 2 laps that you got to put down later on tonight.
When you got your stuff together, yeah, it doesn't matter who you're racing against, right? You could race against the best in the world, and you qualify good, getting that dash and start up front. But it's when you stub your toe or miss it qualifying, or the car's not off a little bit. That's when it gets a little trickier and a little bit more important who you're racing against. But yeah, they split the groups. Group A and Group B was already picked before the night started, and then you pill draw against your group only. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Hopefully it's fairly even, and like I said, we just got to worry about putting 2 good laps qualifying, because that makes your life a ton easier.
Your crew, let's talk about your crew real quick. You guys have kind of gelled and like really became a unit as a whole, really traveling up and down the road from the crew chief to your tire guy, Zach, who's from my hometown back in Oklahoma. So it's pretty fun watching him travel up and down the road and learn as a tire guy as well. Kind of talk about the bond that you guys have and just how the season started. It started off pretty good so far.
So this is my 3rd year at Big Game Motorsports. Every year we've had different guys, but this year we have Cody Jacobs has been the crew chief the whole time, and then the car chief is Scott Vogel's son, who was actually the tire guy my first season that was here. He went to CJB last year, and he came back to being the car chief this year because we had Trey Bowman leave as the car chief after last season. And then Zach was here last year, and he's here this year. So I've worked with all 3 guys at some point. And Scott lives pretty close to the race shop up in Minnesota, which is really good for everybody. And Cody's been there. And then, yeah, Zach, he came from Wayne Johnson's team. He was there for a year, maybe 2. And, he's a kid that wants to drive himself, but I feel like he's doing a good thing for himself in his career, learning how to do stuff on the road, learning how to do things the right way, and just respecting the equipment, keeping it clean, and just things he's going to learn out here that he'll use in the rest of his life moving forward.
So moving forward, like you said, you learn things on the road, and I know with working with Shane at Port City Raceway, whenever he took over, it became something where everything had to be clean, everything had to be nice. It didn't matter if it was Saturday race day or if it was Sunday the day after the race. It had to be nice. Immediately, we walked into this place yesterday, and Brad's immediately picking weeds and stuff like that. Is that a characteristic that being on the road and being at that top level teaches you? Is that something that you that you have learned over the years, or is it something that you started with?
Yeah, it's all about presenting yourself well and looking professional and stuff like that. So you got to control the things that you could control, and keeping things clean and tidy, and it's just easier to keep things clean when you maintain it every week, other than not cleaning it for a month. So, yeah, I think that's just something at the World of Outlaw level. That's where that stuff is taught.
So you're a new dad. What's it like being a dad and being on the road? What's the balance like for you?
It's so new to me, and then the beginning of the season is so slow. We just race on the weekends. This is our first midweek race, kind of the season. So I've been able to fly home, and racing from Volusia, I live in Florida, so I've been able to be home quite a bit as well. So it definitely sucks to leave, but we FaceTime a lot, Snapchat a lot, and yeah, I try to get home as much as I can. I'll fly home after the weekend at Peevely and the week after that. So yeah, it's different. It's going to be really tough when he's going to school and start doing sports and stuff like that. But right now we're taking it day by day, and we're just lucky to have a really healthy and happy baby, that's for sure.
That's what it's all about at the end of the day. Looking forward to the season, like you said, it kind of starts off kind of slow, just racing weekend, and been here. It's about to start picking up really big. It's too early to talk about points and everything else. Is that something that you start looking at early? Do you start looking at midweek, or are you from the get-go, you're like, we have to be consistent in order to be there at the end?
Yeah, you got to be consistent. You always look at it. Like, you don't worry about it too much, but you never want to dig yourself a big hole. I mean, it's hard to make it up against these guys, especially if you got to chase a couple guys. Chasing one is hard enough. So, yeah, you need to be on your game every night. I made a mistake this past weekend at US 36, and hopefully that'll be my only mistake, or very few of them this year. But it's a long season, and the way we've been running, I feel like overall on average we've been the best car. So that's definitely a very comforting and confident feeling.
So like I said before we started this, I don't want to take too much of your time. I got just a few more things here. I got to do a rapid fire with you just to kind of figure out who David Gravel is. So first of all, are you like a bull ring track guy, or do you like these half miles?
That's tough to say. I feel like it could be a crappy bull ring or a crappy half mile, but with our type of racing, Knoxville and Eldora are kind of like two tracks that race good most of the time, and obviously they pay the big money. And then obviously I was good at Volusia this year, so I guess I'm going to have to say a half mile.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl for sure.
Are you a texter or a caller?
If it's something important, definitely a caller, but if it's just whatever, I definitely text a lot.
Are you more Twitter than Facebook, or more Facebook than Twitter?
Man, that is tough nowadays because you got to throw in TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. So I'm honestly spread pretty thin. I would say Instagram, Twitter, Facebook would be the top three. Top three
on that. Are you whenever you go to breakfast, are you a pancake or a waffle guy?
I don't eat breakfast a lot because I'm a night guy. So I'm more of like I'm quick grabbing a muffin and some orange juice and going, or toast and peanut butter, and I got to go.
What's your workout schedule? Are you a big cardio guy, or do you skip leg day and just go straight for the chest and abs?
I got no abs, that's for sure, but I wouldn't say I work out too much. In the off season, I definitely focus on fitness more. But man, throughout the season, I'm not just a guy that could go to the gym myself and work out. Definitely like to have a trainer or somebody to push me. But I just try to eat as best I can, walk as much as I can, and man, during the season when we race a lot, that keeps you into shape really, really well. But it's something that I could probably improve on in my life and my career. But this off season, being a new dad, that definitely took up a lot of my time.
Rock the dad bod, man. It's worth it. I mean, in the end, it's worth it as long as the baby's healthy, right?
Yep.
What's the go-to snack for David Gravel? You're going into the convenience store for a beverage and a snack. What are you going for?
Yep, a snack, probably like a granola bar and definitely a Smart Water, one of those liter Smart Waters. And then if I'm going to Subway, I'm definitely getting like Baked Lays or something like that.
Nothing wrong with Baked Lays. I'm a big Baked Lay fan myself. Let's talk about your YouTube. Your YouTube is grown pretty cool. I mean, I sit there and whenever I'm supposed to be doing something for Shane, I'm watching David Gravel talk about what's going on in the shop and everything else.
Smart man.
So I mean, why it's a good way to spend time. What's kind of driven you to do that stuff?
Yeah, I just think social media is really important, and not a lot of people were doing it when I started doing it, and now there's a couple more, but I think that's where dirt racing's kind of in a weird spot. I feel like we are sometimes setting our times are a little bit old school, and I just feel like this is what I do for a living. I'm a race car driver, and it's all about building your brand and being popular and selling T-shirts and, just growing your name. No matter who you drive for, people still are following David Gravel, not just what car he's driving. And I think that's just what I've focused on. And 3 years ago, roughly, I've had my own T-shirt trailer and driving up and down the road and interacting with fans and showing people maybe some things that they don't see normally. But I think it's just for awareness and just growing the brand up. And there's definitely value in that, and I've seen that in the last year or so, and definitely become, I would say, more well-respected in the sport. And definitely I get people every weekend coming up to me, say, hey, man, I got out of dirt racing, but I saw one of your videos on YouTube, and I came back to the races. So I know we are reaching out to new people, which is really cool.
Bringing people back in that may be taking a little bit of break, because now they do get to see that behind-the-scenes stuff, and that's why I watch it, because it's just cool seeing what you guys are doing. I know it's a grind, and it's not easy by any means, editing your own videos and doing everything else and keeping up on the times. At home right now on YouTube, there's some kid that's watching this video going, oh my gosh, Haas got to talk to David Gravel, or oh my gosh, David Gravel got to talk to Haas.
Yep.
So there's a junior sprint driver out there that's making his way through the ranks and everything else. That's starting in the quarter midgets. That's the young David Gravel. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell your 8-year-old self?
Yeah, so It all depends on what the end goal is. Like my end goal was always to race in NASCAR. Like that was what I dreamed. I watched pavement racing growing up, and we evolved to become a dirt racer through my career, and that could change. To me, the family dynamic is always so tough. Is the dads trying to push their kids, thinking they're the next Jeff Gordon or Kyle Larson, and you have to make it fun still. When you're racing and you're on the racetrack, everybody wants to win, and you have to be competitive and have that drive. But also, you could be pushed too hard and wear yourself out. But my goal was just to race for a living. If I could be a race car driver and don't have to bring money to the table, and I could provide for my family, and to me, that's still the dream. You learn so much doing it yourself. In my career, we were successful in quarter midgets. We were successful in micro sprints. We were successful in 360 sprint cars as a family with family crew, right? Guys that didn't work on sprint cars. But when we went to that 410 rank, we really got a wake-up call. And we blew up a lot of motors, lost a lot of money, and pretty much wasted a year of just trial and error and stupid stuff. From there, we really realized, hey, we need legitimate mechanics and legitimate people to work on this thing. And once we did that, that really helped us out a lot. But I just think it's being honest with yourself, knowing what you could afford or not afford, and know if you're doing a good job as a dad or a mechanic or a driver. If your kid's not ready to move up, don't force him to move up. Move up when he's ready. And also, you don't want to go bankrupt either. Like, you want to race good, and if he's meant to be a race car driver and he's that good, he'll win every week in the junior sprints, and somebody locally will give him an opportunity to run a 600 locally. And I think at the end of the day, you got to make sure the kid has fun, and success breeds opportunities.
It doesn't get much better than that. Make sure you're having fun, and success breeds opportunities. It's David Gravel right here on the Haas Talks Roadshow.
Performance Electronics, custom electronic solutions. From design to manufacturing, let us put your ideas in motion and become your company's full-service electronics manufacturing experts. Performance Electronics.